Welcome to the Clark Connection podcast. It's great to be with you. I'm your host, Aaron Clark, aka The Coach. And look, we've got a fantastic episode for you today. Joining us is Ashleigh Voisin, a content creator, entrepreneur, and podcaster. That we have a great conversation about being vulnerable in leadership, the loneliness you may experience with being an entrepreneur, and many other great things. But first, I want to give a quick shout out to my sponsors. Bobbie with the Comfy Quest LLC, Andrew with Automate Integrate Professional Services, and Wayne with 7K Metals. Look, all of their information is listed below. If you're looking to connect with me, you can reach me on all social media. Just search at Coach_A_Clark or via my website, and I'll get back with you within 24 to 48 hours. Let's roll that intro footage. This is the Clark Connection Podcast, your weekly dose of inspiration and power. We'll dive deep into the stories and strategies that ignite personal growth and entrepreneurial fire. Join us as we empower you to take control, level up your leadership, and build the life you deserve. Get ready to rise, to thrive, and to finally become the leader of your own destiny. Let's go. And so let's welcome to the show, guys. We've got Ashleigh Voisin, the entrepreneur, content creator, fellow podcaster, and longtime friend. Ashleigh, welcome to the show.
Hello. Thanks for having me.
Oh, my pleasure. And listen, I mean, we've got a lot of different things that we can talk about. I know we were catching up and that just, where life has taken us. And I really kind of want to start it off with, you said you started a new podcast, and tell us more about that.
So I got into entertaining. I think it came from a source of wanting to entertain when I was really young, which led me into leadership positions starting as early as, 4th and 5th grade. And when COVID came and I felt really desperate to connect with people, I started creating content. And it was terrible. I mean, the worst videos, I hope they don't exist anywhere. I fear that I will see them one day. And
don't worry, they're still out there.
They are somewhere. I'm traumatized if I scroll past them in Google Photos. But I started creating content, and I knew it was kind of selfish in that moment because making people laugh was always a part of life. But when I started to get feedback from random people that said, I'm going through a divorce and I'm really down right now, and you gave me 1 minute of just laughing, that meant the world to me. I mean, like wells my eyes up right now. And so the podcast feels like, like I'm sure you understand the natural progression of that short form handshake. It becomes a hug, when you take it to a podcast level. So I'm super excited to do that and kind of just build deeper connections with my followers and anybody else.
Yeah. And that's a pretty interesting way that you said it, because, that was kind of how I got into it all. My kids were like, oh yeah, Dad, why don't you put those short lessons on TikTok? And somebody found me, and same thing. And I like that it went from, hey, how you doing, to like, hey, we're friends now. Like it's very, what's the word I'm looking for? That
it's kind of intimate. I mean, especially when I watch yours every time, and I'm like, I feel like I'm right. I know Cookie Monster, like I see him, I feel like I'm a part of it. So it is a really cool way when people really support your cause and share your thoughts like that.
Yeah. I was about to say, and actually, you're the first person that's brought Cookie Monster up. So how Cookie Monster came to be, that when I was coaching girls soccer at Central High School, so this was back in like 2013, 2014, we went through a spell of, I went like 4 or 5 games in a row where like I was visiting players at the hospital after games because they got injured. And so one of the girls found Cookie Monster on the bus whenever we were going. They're like, Coach, you got to bring him on the sideline and he's going to keep us safe. And nobody got hurt after that. So Cookie Monster came everywhere with us that year. And so that's why Cookie Monster. So he's there to keep everybody safe.
Right. A little shrine of safety with Cookie Monster. That's awesome.
But yeah, no, it does. They definitely it's the vulnerable was the word I was looking for, because you got to go through and talk about so many different things. And that's one I don't think a lot of leaders even think about themselves, is they want to show themselves as, ooh, look at me, I'm this tough, strong person. But really, if you think to the people and the bosses and the teachers and the coaches and fill in the blank, the ones that you loved and adored, they were always real with you. Like, hey, I'm not happy right now. And, or feel whatever it was, they let you know what was going on. That's tough as a leader, to be vulnerable.
Absolutely. But I mean, transparency is one of those things that's, tastes best both ways. And even as a leader, if you're telling the people that you lead, look, this is the lane and I want you to ride a two-wheeled bicycle, it still takes vulnerability and sharing to encourage the people following you to paint that bike their own color and make it original. You could put speakers on it and encourage them to be their own, even when they're following, your mission and values with, your organization.
Yeah, absolutely. And so I do kind of want to go back, because I know as we were catching up, that you had a lot of great stories that ended up to how Ashleigh got to where Ashleigh is now. Which was, some of it was like, oh, I knew that. And then some of it was like, whoa, what? That's really cool. So I'll say, let's kind of go into that. How did Ashleigh now get to where Ashleigh is?
I think now this is my favorite question in the world. And a year ago, it was not the same feeling. I felt like I was an individual, like downtown Atlanta rush hour traffic jam. I mean, it was like, oh my gosh, I don't know how all of these versions of me came to end up right here, but none of us know what to do now. We're going nowhere. And it really took kind of a hard stop and assessing. I think earlier I had mentioned the phrase that almost unusable versatility. I was like, I can do something valuable with every finger I have, but which one matters the most? Which finger would you choose to lose if you had to? So it was really just learning to kind of stop and accept the fact that all of those are me, and then kind of figure out how to give it all a purpose into what can help myself and help others. Because it keeps me up at night to think that I'm leaving other people stuck on the freeway in the traffic jam. When there really is a way to stop and say, it all kind of does make sense. And when I think about it, because even, this is this bad boy out. I think that when we really honestly look at where we came from, who we are, and why we ended up doing what we do, I mean, most courteous Mr. Aaron Clark, I don't think anybody would disagree with you right now. Anybody watching you that knows your drive to help people, and just polite to the core, even probably when you're coaching and yelling, that's who you are. And then mine is most dependable, which did get me into a lot of abusive relationships, I do have to say, but it's because I love to be there. I will be there and give and give and give until I have nothing. And even Wyatt sitting next to me in the boat, he's the one helping plan our 20th reunion with me. How did that end up? I mean, I haven't seen Wyatt since our 10th anniversary. So a lot of times it comes together.
Right. Wow. 20 years. Oof.
Yeah. Moving on from that. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I hadn't looked at that yearbook in a while, man.
It's just been in the past year that I really put my fingers in all of those things. I started looking back even as closely as seeing the way that my smile changed at different years in my life, and then tying that with what I was doing professionally and personally, the way I was leading or not leading or following, and it's funny that when we allow ourselves to just be who we are and see it for what it is, it tracks and it can be useful. So yeah, I mean, like you said, it gets crazy because I still, helping mothers breastfeed is something that's one of the most random out there that I've got. But it warms my heart more than anything to still get a text from a friend of a friend that passed my name along, and I can get on Zoom and teach them how to, care for their baby however they can and just know they're not alone. That's so, as random as it is, it still tracks with who I am as a person,
Mm-hmm. Yep, still most dependable. Still most dependable.
I try. I really try.
Yes, man, I'm gonna have to go find mine now. I have no idea where that is. My yearbook. Good night.
And I know how, just going through mine, it is so wonderful to see, like, do you remember this is how we used to communicate? This is just a in-between class letter from another classmate. If I got this in the mail right now, I would marry this person. I would find them, I would follow them the rest of their life, and I would love them. So when you go through these things, it's like, wow. I think that it's something special in the leaders of our generation to not lose sight of this connection and the fact that it really doesn't matter, to be courteous and dependable. It saves us.
Yeah, no, me and Dawn were talking about that with the boys the other day, like, they having to pass the notes like that, and that was how how's your day going, blah, 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 whatever. Whereas now they just all hop on one of these bad boys and they just,
Right.
they text, Snapchat, TikTok, whatever, their friend.
It makes me want to start a pen pal list at our reunion, like get us all back into it. Maybe I'll pull out mine that I clearly have saved and in a museum level quality. But I think there's something special about where we came from, though, with who we are, I think. Mm-hmm. And you're still there, right?
Yeah. I mean, it was such a cool that, being in that zennial range, we still got the go outside from mom, don't come inside until the street lights come on. But we also kind of grew up with technology because, like, I can remember being very resistant to getting my first cell phone because that's how mom and dad are going to track you.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas now, like, I mean, I can't tell you the amount of players that would always wonder, like, how did you know we went and did? And I'm like, well, you put it on social media. Yes. Everybody could see it, champ. But, I mean,
I can't imagine being a parent without it.
Mm-hmm. Right?
Man. But there's a special independence that came with it, though, that I think I hope that our children's generation gets that. Even without that independence we had, I hope they still have that entrepreneurial fire in them that comes with, independence.
Yeah. And it was, that's the only thing that I wish I could bring back from that. I wish that Nokia brick phone would come back because you couldn't destroy that bad boy. I was so upset when I had to get rid of it. And but I think that's what's so important about, like, what we're doing now and between the different podcasts with wanting to really highlight, hey, what does an entrepreneur look like? How do you lead? How do you go about growing yourself? Things like that. Because, I mean, I know, like, you listing a laundry list of stuff for me, from going to Surge Tech to being a GM to you mentioned the lactation consultant. I mean, all just like cool things that I don't know how. And it's there as I get to talk with a lot of young people still. They still want to be their own boss and have that independence, and they don't want to go work for the man. They want that, the entrepreneurial spirit, it's still there. But I don't think people realize just how difficult it is to be that entrepreneur.
At all. And so when after we, I kind of gave you the rundown of the circus, and I realized that, my overarching theme of my life has been this battle with loneliness. And the way that I had described it was that loneliness was kind of this silent, undertow in, the ocean of my life. And even as a kid, so in first grade, my first entrepreneurial endeavor was back at the time when we were not allowed to wear starter brand. Remember, it was like banned from, right. Yeah, it was that time. And I don't know how this happened.
Cool if you didn't wear that.
Right. I took it to the next level. I made my own contraband. And I started making, in first grade, those string bracelets. It's like a million knots that you knot together and make designs. So I started making them at lunch and after school. And then I had this little tackle box for them that I would bring in my backpack, and I was selling bracelets at lunch and after school. I ended up in the principal's office in no time, because to them, that was equal with selling baseball cards, wearing starter. I was a problem. And I'll never forget that feeling of, I was doing something right. Like I was about to take off in this first grade classroom. And then by third grade, I was designing birthday invitations for my friends' birthday parties that their parents would make copies of at work. And it's just always been something in me. So in that ocean where I was battling loneliness since, age 4, that in this entrepreneurship became the ship that I rode. And it didn't matter the job that I was doing, or even if I was my own boss, because I think that even with the economy and fears about really being the only one on the tightrope, there's still a mentality to working to the highest standard that you have and treating it like it's your company. And any employee that has ever worked for me, I wanted them to walk around town with that same accountability, and feel proud of the work they're doing. And so entrepreneurship was, the ship that's been tossed around in the waves of life. And as, like I said, as I ended up on that Atlanta freeway, trapped on my little vessel of businesses.
The boat on the freeway.
Yes, the boat. That's exactly what it was. Yeah, almost unusable versatility. Until I turned into Peter Pan when the boat starts flying. That's where I am now. Nice. I'll never grow up.
No, me neither. That's why when you brought up the 20-year reunion, I'm like, nope, I'm not that old.
We'll let you be mascot. But yeah, entrepreneurship is that vessel in the ocean of the world that you can't control the tide. The minute that the biggest risk that I took was in 2021 when I bought my own first house alone in 2018, this tiny little house right by the beach in Florida. And after people came to Florida like crazy after COVID and wanted to stay in Airbnbs, I saw that there was a profitable opportunity there. And it was designed great because I love interior design. And I turned it into an Airbnb, rented a cheap apartment that my kids and I stayed in for 5 months while I made a deal with the people who owned the house across the street from that original one I bought. And they were the original owners. It was super torn up house, really needed too much work. But I knew these are the stepping stones. Like, this is how I'm going to change my life with doing this. And I'll work as hard as I have to get this plan going. So as soon as we moved out of the apartment, I had bought a second house as a single mom, still working mainly as a marketing director for a design firm. the economy changed. Basically everything, it was almost like you could see it in real time. Like all the wheels just started going backwards. Like every single risk I took was like, bah, bah, you know, like, and there's no stopping it. And all what it meant as an entrepreneur is that if you have, this amount of money, that's got to cover your hard assets, labor, services you have to pay. And unfortunately, in a really small business, the manpower and human capital ends up falling all on you, because you have to pay the non-negotiables. You have to pay your bills and groceries and lights. So you're just going to have to work 24 hours a day because you can't hire anybody to help you. And that's the side of entrepreneurship I think that I understand that people wouldn't be ready for, because in a just unstable kind of economy and world that we're in, you never know when trends are going to change or, prices are going to change. And it really can wear you out. It's very stressful. I admire you. I admire anybody that does it. I mean, even look, I wore this. This is our classmate, Jordan Tomlin.
Yeah.
Because he's got that spark in him too. I mean, there's so much beauty in being unafraid to put your spirit out there. It's so great, but it costs, it definitely costs to take the risk.
Yeah. And I think that's one too, how you mentioned loneliness. I know I've mentioned that to people too before. And I think that's what's so important about like what we're doing with our podcast and wanting to bring light and awareness to that, is how often you can be in a room and feel completely alone. Like there could be 100,000 people in there and you're like, man, I don't know if anybody else is in here with me. It was actually one of the before my grandfather passed, he was ready to go home on hospice. And that was one we were sitting there. I said, well, I'm going to stay with you until my dad gets here. I said, it was either my dad or my aunt. I can't remember who was coming. I said, I'm going to stay with you. I know you want me to go take care of the business, but I got my cell phone. If anybody needs anything, I got this. I don't want to leave you alone. And that was one thing that kind of just gut punch when he's like, I've been alone most of my life. He said, and I think you know exactly what I'm talking about, don't you? And I was like, ow. Oh. But it's something that people, that you're not in it alone as an entrepreneur and as a leader. There are a bunch of us out here who want to help you, who want, even if it's nothing more than just a quick phone call to just go, you know what, Ashleigh, let me tell you how bad life sucks right now. Mm-hmm. And it's not like the end of the world, but you could, because you can be, man, Aaron, let me tell you, this happened yesterday. Or vice versa. It's why what I'm enjoying the most about this is putting me back in touch, because I had gotten away from moving into my corporate role in charge of 7 different schools. That had really withdrawn me. Even though I was around a lot of people, it withdrew me a lot. But as I'm starting to connect back with like you and with Corey and several other guys, it's really bringing it back into like, hey, no, there are a bunch of us that know exactly what we're all going through.
Yeah, I don't know when it happened, but whoever put the negative spin on the phrase "misery loves company," I think really set us back, because misery should love company to feel better. Like we should be able to comfort each other in times of misery. It's not, we all have misery. The most miserable part is that everybody's like, no, keep your misery to yourself. I've got my own. But every load is lighter if we hold it together,
Bingo.
So
Bingo.
It's really tough, but it's hard. Keeping up appearances is scary these days too. Like I was talking about those old videos. It's like, it is, you have to choose how and when to share it. But I think it is great, like you said, what you're doing, and especially connecting with people that, I don't know, to me, it feels like they knew this less damaged version of me. But it feels great to know that we're all still kind of the same. You know, like you're still that person in your spirit. You're still that great person from high school. Those great qualities we had, they didn't get totally run over. And sometimes it takes somebody from the past to be like, yeah, dude, you're the same as I knew. It's kind of comforting.
Right. And that's all part of that growth and development, because we learn, especially, I mean, the different leadership roles that we've all had. It teaches you learn a lesson from it. I'll tell any and everybody that failure is not final, and you only really fail when you quit. There's nothing you can't learn and grow and get better from. And we've all had those certain circumstances. Mine are different from yours, but yours are different from theirs. It's all great, unique perspectives that help us to become better versions of ourselves. And I like how you said it, as long as you don't lose who you actually are.
Yep. That really has become the most important thing, because I am glad that at the end of it, with some work, it has always been easier to train myself out of those negative ways I got into. And it has been effortless to keep the best parts of me, as long as I paid attention to them. You know, I don't have to water them and put them in the sun. It's the bad habits I have to like tend to all the time and, you know, keep them. And that's just the world and life, you know, trying to come out. But I think in the age that we live in, and with technology and the abilities of AI, that is, you know, a whole another interesting topic that I love to get into. I spent 30 minutes in Best Buy today talking to a dude about AI. I mean, I had him doing drills on it anyway. There's something about, I think that hopefully future entrepreneurs remember that what will always make us better than technology or AI is our own individual spirit, and those things, the dark and light sides of us that make us unique. And that's the beauty of, you know, even though imitation is flattery and most ideas are kind of stolen, you still put your own, you know, you paint your bike your own color and you know, go in your direction. But I hope that people remember not to conform totally, you know, just to keep their Instagram version up.
Right. Yeah, and it is true that AI, man, that's some cool stuff. You know, I've learned to embrace it. You know, at first it was like, ooh, AI bad, stay. But as you kind of use it, but as you were saying, the thing that separates us is we can think. Is I can go, nah, that doesn't work. That versus the AI is just gonna, whatever you put in, it's gonna put it back out. Yeah, definitely some cool stuff.
And there's no fighting it. I mean, in one of the professional talks that I like to do is I explain it kind of the way that it was when Henry Ford invented the motor vehicle. So a large part of our economy and workforce was taking care of livestock and the carts and the ways that we would move people around the country. Well, then he comes in and he brings in this car, and people are like, oh, no, that's a death machine. It's going to kill everybody. It's going to get rid of all of our jobs. Nobody's going to be able to work taking care of the horses and stuff. But it was going to come. The money was there. It was going to happen. So either you could accept that it's happening, learn to drive a car where you wanted it to go, or keep standing with your horse in the middle of the road and it's going to run you over. You will just be a road for that new technology. And AI, the guy in Best Buy, was so upset that his brother had gotten a Tesla and how it was going to kill the world and take everyone's jobs. And I said, I mean, it'll take yours. Like if you don't learn to be like you said, like wield it and understand, like that sounds like AI and that does not make sense, and the ways to use it. That's kind of where we are now. I mean, it is and will happen. And there are so many ways, even for my kids, there's one great technique that I love, and I think it says a lot about how everyone's an entrepreneur when it comes to AI. These are your free employees. Use them. And one great thing to do is to get your phone and get in the Notes app and just turn on the microphone for dictation. And for 10 seconds, just say all the things that are on your mind to get done. No order. I mean, just stream of consciousness, laundry, groceries, this, that, pick up this person, do this, repaint the bedroom, whatever. Spit it all out for 10 seconds. Then copy that out of your Notes app and just paste it into ChatGPT. You don't have to give it instructions, just paste it. ChatGPT will take that, prioritize it, put it in order with loving instructions that encourage you, that tell you how to break it down into bite-sized pieces. And in that 15 seconds, it takes less than 15 seconds for ChatGPT to spit it back out. And if anyone wants to say that even that's not valuable, that's building humans up to use our brains for what we really should be doing. Because then we can really start spending our time on making a difference and succeeding when we're not spending an hour crying about our to-do list and how, I don't even have enough paper to get this right. It's like a math problem I'm never going to solve. Yeah. So.
That is pretty cool. I am definitely going to try that. Because I know, one I use all the time is AI helps me with even putting the show together, Good night. I would, probably up until about episode 12-ish, I was doing a whole lot on my own, and then I discovered, I can do this like this, and AI will help me to go, hey, these are going to be your reels that are going to play best. These are the top best notes. These are key words. And I was just like, wow, this is freeing up. I'm gone from 12 to 14 hours a week working on one episode to now I can, in that same 12 to 14 hours, I can get 3 to 4 episodes done and still have time to go hang out with my wife, my children, watch Netflix or whatever you decide you want to do. But it frees up a lot of manual labor time.
Right.
Kodak was the picture cat person. That was it. You were the top of the line. Where are they now? Where are Polaroids? Where are those companies? They said, no, this digital pictures will never take off. And the people that jumped on, Canon, Nikon, that jumped in and said, hey, we're going to jump in. They're still around and kicking. Where's Blockbuster today? I found my Blockbuster card the other day.
Ooh, that's the keeper. Yes. I'm kind of jealous of that. Wow.
So I was like, yep, I'll never get rid of that. But, they had the opportunity to buy Netflix and didn't. They would still be around.
Easily. Yeah, they were very stubborn. And even the mattress stores that took over are going out of business too. Mm-hmm. Because everybody's going online.
But they've always been going out of business. That's why you get such a good deal on them.
You're right. It is always going out of business too. That's right.
One of my buddies sent me a video. Have you seen the Saturday Night Live skit where they did George Washington crossing the Delaware?
I did. I loved it. With the dozen, there will be a word for a number. Yeah, I did.
What will we do on President's Day? Buy a new mattress.
And then Jeff, are we going to spell Jeff? Well, the easy way, another way with a J, with a G.
This is not cool.
Yeah, that was a really good one. I enjoy Nate Bargatze. I think he does a good job of, he's another one of those that has a timelessness in his humor. He has a great way of pulling in history and making us think about it and kind of appreciate it for a second in a funny way. Because, we really are that way. My son is 14 and asked me recently, I think last week, he said, what do you think of brain rot? Which I guess is that language that skibbity, they say toilet a lot. I don't know. I haven't learned it.
In Ohio, that ain't got that Riz.
Yeah. Yeah, I was like, I don't know. as long as your English grades are good, I'm into you being multilingual. Like, sure. He was like, well, people are saying it'll leave us unemployed. I was like, well, if you choose it over English, yeah, like, but I like that. We used to do Pig Latin and stuff, and Pig Latin definitely makes more sense than calling people a skibbity toilet. But still, as long as they're kind of remembering the past and like foundations of how we're all built, we've all done crazy things with language,
Right. And I mean, we had it too going. I can't even think. I mean, how long ago? I mean, before nobody was saying what's up until.
No, we were saying, what's up? That's right, yeah. And then we used to call people scrubs. And those are the two I really still hold on to. I'm like, yeah, I can.
Yeah, I mean, don't want no scrubs. Definitely don't want scrubs.
No.
Unless you're a doctor or a nurse, then it's okay. Nobody else.
Right.
Yeah, and it's so it is true too, and I think that's one I always tell people. As you were talking about, having to find yourself. I think that's one of those things that's important. I love the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People by Stephen Covey. That's when he talks about, sharpening the saw, going back, looking, and making sure, another guy that I love is John Maxwell. He's always talking. He sets aside that I think it's Christmas Day. They once he gets done with everybody, 5 p.m. until New Year's Eve, to go back just to review his calendar and review the notes and to say, what did I do this past year? That way he's constantly rediscovering and reevaluating who he was and how do we get better. That way we don't get stuck on the Atlanta freeway in a boat.
Right.
No trailer.
And in my corporate job, when I was marketing director, it was a lot. It was way more of a workload than one person should have, but that's just where I thrive. And I was huge on every single task, every to-do I wrote in these notebooks. And I did the same thing, but I did it quarterly because yearly was a lot. So usually quarterly I'd have a 150, 200 page little notebook. And what I would do is go through with different color highlighters. And one would be like proposal planning. The other would be community work. The other, and I would highlight each of the tasks in those 5 colors so that at the end of the quarter, I can even flip through the book and see, wow, I spent a ton of time on, employee and company culture, and what's the return on that? And then I could kind of control where the next quarter was going to go, and kind of just on a color coding basis. Gosh, I can't imagine doing that for a whole year. And now I've given up on the little books, and you can see this size notebook. I've never. I go through 30 of them.
Yeah, I was about to say, I can't even keep, I've got so much. If I were to flip this around and show you the papers on my desk, paper is not my friend. But man, I can do a great job of keeping up my notes right here.
I'm trying to get better. I'm trying to get better at that, at the phone. It's a hard.
It just gets, the paper, I lose it so easy. But I mean, the great thing about OneDrive is OneDrive keeps it all stored in one location, and I can always find it. It'll even help me find it. I can just type in Ashleigh. Hey, there's everything I did about Ashleigh.
Yeah, I need to get better with that. I'm envious of that. And photo organization, I think, is where I really will throw a smart device across the house, is trying to find photos and videos.
Nobody has any of that organized.
I hope not.
It's just all, rolling dice. Can I find that picture from that beach vacation? Nope.
And did you ever work in the service industry at all? Did you ever wait tables or anything like that?
I never waited tables. I mean, whenever we had Harley of New Orleans, I was in, the motor clothes and everything like that. So I never did the waiting tables though.
So when you bartend or wait tables or in service industries, sometimes, let's say if you're bartending and people sit at the bar and you need to create their kind of tab, you give them an identifier. Like if you and Don sat down, it'd be red shirt, goatee, and that would be your bar name. And then any other bartenders or servers would identify you. And now that's where it's got with me searching for images. I would hate for my friends and family to see the ways I'm searching for them. I'm like, I know on that day her hair was out of control. It was bad. So I'll be like, bad hair, brown, big glasses. Trying to find the people I love by name.
And funny that it is, because that's one I've been working with my team on, is we're going through talking about the 6 ways to get people to like you. And that's one that was in there, was coming up with a way to identify somebody that through, hey, red shirt, they slicked over hair, the curly hair, red, black shirt. Got it. Now, anything to kind of help you really associate that name with face or what have you. It's
Yep.
and remembering people's names. That's one of the things. That's what it was mostly talking about, was remembering names. So it's funny that you brought it up. That's how y'all would identify people.
Yes, and I've made it recently. Really taken it seriously to do better at learning names, and now I do sometimes embarrass myself, but I usually have no problem asking somebody how they spell it. So if I met you for the first time and you said, my name's Erin, just to make it stick in my memory, I would say Erin, right? And you would look at me like, no, have you ever met a man that spells it Erin? But I'll remember your name forever,
But they always do. They always do. So I mean, I'm thankful for Key and Peele, because I'm like, Aaron, Aaron.
Aaron.
Go to O'Shan Hennessy's office. That's where Aaron is. And they still mess it up.
You and Don, Don and Erin. Jeez. Oh, man.
We make the perfect couple then.
Yeah, either way around. Yeah, that is a really important thing, and that will never go out of style, to remember people's names, and it is incredibly hard. It truly is.
Yeah. And I think what's hard is, like, so you might meet, so like we meet one time, and I mean, granted, we've got a longer past history than that, so it wouldn't be like if I saw you out in public, like, oh, hey, person. But it comes difficult, like, in our lines of work. I mean, you come across hundreds of thousands of people every single year.
Yeah.
I'm sure if you were to pull up and say, scroll to the bottom of your contact list, how many does it say? And you're like, oh, I don't want to do that. It says like 5,000. Or look at your Facebook page. It becomes tough, like with even doing like the motocross ministry. I come across people all the time, and Dawn will go, who was that? I'm like, I was hoping you would help set me up and be like, oh, hey, I'm Dawn. It's like, oh, I didn't introduce y'all? Like, throw me a bone.
It's so tough. It's so tough. And I got, as part of that, trying to remember people's names, I got more mindful about who I was following online, who I was seeing frequently on Facebook, Instagram, and being constantly reminded of that face to name. And I think I used to follow like maybe 500 people. And now, man, I think as of today, I'm down to like 250. Every time I go on, if it's somebody that I wouldn't know off the top of my head and feel comfortable, going up to at the grocery store and having one, then I won't unfriend them. But it's just like, you live in Canada. I'm not going to run it. I'd rather the people that I really, have connections with, I want to make sure that I've got them down first. It's nothing personal. It's just, I'm old and I'm running out of space.
Yeah. And it is very impressive, though, whenever you do come across them and they're like, wow, they remembered who I was. And so it's
Mm-hmm.
definitely one I know before like going to that conference in a couple of weeks, I'm going to be refreshing up like, all right, so who was that person? Who was this person? Who? And just that was one I took away from a guy by the name of Verge Alsbury. He was the athletic director at LSU over football operations. And that was one that always impressed me, that he remembered who I was, and we'd only met like 3 or 4 times. And I was like, how do you remember their names? And he was like, that's my business. It's like forgetting that would be like forgetting what's your next play? What's this? What's that? And I was like, all right, got to remember names. Got to get good at remembering names.
It's so hard, and it is the greatest compliment. It feels really good when I'm at a conference and some of like the people that I look up to, I meet them or they know my name. I mean that'll change. That will change at least my short term trajectory. Like I feel like wow, that they know millions, and I mean my name's Ashleigh, so it's not that hard, but kind of makes it harder, I guess. And it means so much. I gotta get better at that skill. My greatest trick is just spelling their name wrong, and then we laughed about it. And I remember I met a guy today that said his name was Jason, but we were on the phone, and when he said it, it kind of cut out, and it sounded almost like, and it's Halloween time, so it sounded like he went, and I heard it. I was like, "Did you just make a scary movie sound?" And he was like, no, I said my name is. And so now I'll remember forever. It was Jason. He was like, my name is. I was like, okay, well, that is a spooky name. And on my end, it sounded like you were chasing me through the hallway, going. So yeah, I'll learn it however I can, even if it's silly.
Yeah, and then I'll tell people too, never be afraid to just go, all right, I'm recognize your face. Tell me your name again.
Right. Right.
And then use it about
Yeah.
18 times.
Because at the end of the day, there's still nothing worse than pretending like you don't know them at all. Just because you are embarrassed you didn't remember their name.
Yeah.
And I think people miss that.
Right. Or, just don't name them another name. That's one I was bad at when I was coaching. Like, the kid I coached, his real name is Robert. I'll never talk to him and call him Robert, because I called him George for about 3 months before he finally corrected me.
So now you got to remember 2 names for one person. It's a great way to stack
Yes.
them on.
Yes. But nah, he knows. He hears George. He's like, what's up, coach? Only person who calls him George. I like so much so I was like, all right, grabbed his parents and went, what is his name?
Did you consider George first at any time? Because I'm feeling it.
It is what it is. And I mean, it's not, I hate it because I would do something like go up to you and be like, oh, Amanda, what's up?
I don't know. I'm the worst because I will ride it out. I'll never tell you. I'll change my profile names to Amanda just to wait for you to find out the wrong way.
Yeah. Oh, man. And you feel terrible because, like, man, why didn't they correct me? Because I want to make sure to call you by your name. It's important. But yeah, as we're kind of hitting close to the top of the hour, I know we talked a little bit about it, but I wanted to, drop, regroup, come back in and talk a little bit more about the podcast. That way we can definitely get people, send them your way, because I think it's going to be an excellent show that people aren't going to want to miss out on.
Thanks. I appreciate it. And it's something that I really hope tons of people want to participate in. I really want it to be, I think a lot of the struggle with me kicking it off was that I really didn't want it to feel like, hi, and welcome to the show about me. Let me tell you all of my stories. I really want to share experiences with people and share stories. So I appreciate it. And the website, I'm sure we can link in comments or something like that for people to share stories through text, audio, or video. And it could be anything. My first guest I think this is the reason that I really wanted him to be my first guest, and I felt like it was serendipity when we met a couple of weeks ago, was because it's a great example all around of everything I'm going for. So, and I think will really resonate with you too, because he's an entrepreneur. So I was in Denver speaking at a conference, and I love metal music. That's like a little closet thing of mine. So I was at this metal bar that was recommended to me, and I look over, and just a seat down, there's this Asian looking guy, California Asian, like Silicon Valley. I know it sounds terrible, but I know everybody knows what I mean. And I look over, and he's sitting there, and he's kind of got his legs crossed, incredible shape, very fit. He's having a beer, and I was about to order food. He was looking at the menu, and I always have twice as much as I should have. So I said, hey, I'm going to get a couple of the sides. Do you want to share them with me? Because I'm just at a hotel. He said, yeah, I'll share. Well, so we start hitting it off, and he's got this big, great smile. And he says that he started, his entrepreneurial journey a few years ago. He started a home organizing business. He was like, yeah, I do security and kind of cloud management for the biggest tech company in the world. And I was like, wow. And you started organizing messy women's houses? What do you, and he said, well, it was his first step in pushing himself in a totally different direction than his comfort zone. He said, and there was something about it being really fulfilling to challenge. Said because he's organized, he's driven, and he's an entrepreneur, it was, so he really loved learning that skill. And that evolved into him telling me that he was going to be leaving in like 30 minutes or so to go to a dance class. So we're in a metal bar, let me remind you. So the background music of this conversation is and he says, here, yeah, let me show you. And he takes out his phone, and he starts showing me basically like where people would go to learn TikTok dances. And he had background dancers, like women, and they're doing this choreographed dance. And I was like, is that why you're in such good shape? He said, no, I've run and worked out in the gym my whole life like a typical man. He's like, I am straight. But he got out of a 7-year relationship. And when that ended and he was hurt, he did the same thing he did with the organizing business. And he said, how can I go totally out of my comfort zone and force myself into growth to make it through this? The next video he showed me, he's wearing heels, Aaron. He was wearing 3 or 4 inch heels doing the dances. And the whole time he's reminding me, I am straight. I am straight. And I was like, I am straight and I could never do that. Like, it was the most beautiful conversation. And then with the background music, sharing fried chicken and Brussels sprouts. And it was like friends for life because he shared about his breakup. I told him about starting a new life in Chicago. And that's all it took. I mean, for being so different, all it took was for us to take the time to listen to each other. And now I am blown away by this human. And I said, please be my first one. So that I can fully embarrass myself trying to figure out how to podcast with this, super smart guy. But I think that says so much about the humor of life and how silly we can and should be, and how easy it is to make a connection when you open it up, and how beautiful, like, humans do some good stuff. Life be lifing, but humans be dancing in heels and stuff.
Yeah, say life does be lifing. It does. It does. And so
yeah, I appreciate you sharing it.
Yeah. So kind of the last thing that I'm going to do, because I always like to ask this to everybody as we close it. Like, what was one thing that I should have asked you that maybe I didn't ask you?
Oh, um, wow. That's hard. I mean, I can think of a lot of basic ones, but I feel like you did a great job. But I will share one of my favorite questions that I have been asked on a podcast that I was on. And I think that it's something that I remind myself of every day. And I think it'll be an easy answer for you is this entrepreneur that I knew in Florida started this brand called Impact Over Influence. And I wore the hat. I wear the hat pretty much every morning on my morning walk to just start my day that way with it literally on my head, and to remember that a lot of what we do with screens is written off as influence, but things like what you do and what you do with players and students and your family, like making actual impact with people and changing, kind of the dialogue for how we treat each other and grow. That is something. And so at the end of his podcast said, what do you think it means, impact versus influence? And so no, I don't think you should have asked me that, because it would have been pretty weird if you did. But I feel like you did a great job of asking it without asking it. And now there's nothing else other than, hey Ash, I'm gonna see you at the reunion, right?
Exactly. And
Yeah.
so, all right. And so I know if you're still on here, you're still listening, guys, how would I put my listeners, what's your website? How do they get in touch with you? I know there's people on here who have stories to tell, and you've got another
Absolutely.
great platform.
Yeah. Right now, the best way to contact me is, really, I could be found on any platform of choice. If you search just my first and last name, Ashleigh Voisin, and it should bring you up an option for how you can connect. And through any of those ways, there's message, email, and you can really submit any freestyle way right now. And in the future, there will be a way more streamlined way to do that. Right now, I'm just trying to kind of invite everybody every way that I can. But yeah, Ashleigh Voisin, and don't look for videos that are older than 3 years.
Yeah, I was about to say, they're all going to go look for the older than that. All right. Well, Ashleigh, it was wonderful having you on. Now, we'll definitely have to do this again. I really enjoyed it. And we'll definitely talk soon and see you at the reunion.
Yes, I will. Thank you so much.
What a fantastic episode. Wasn't Ashleigh great? I mean, we've got some really cool takeaways that we can talk about. And, one of the ones that really stuck out to me was talking about how vulnerability as a leader in making you an effective leader. And while we may not feel like that it's something that we need to show, in this world of Instagram and Facebook, where we want to show everybody this is the greatest, but it's real crucial for those that we're leading. They know that we're human beings too, and that we're open to getting better. Another thing that as you're going through and trying to find your purpose, and just having that versatility to make sure that you use that opportunity to grow as a person. That one that really I was thinking, just as an entrepreneur myself, that sometimes it really involves that navigating feelings of loneliness, and how sometimes, even though you feel like you're in a crowded room by yourself, that there are others who are out there. And that brings me another one, how important it is to connect with others to lighten your emotional burden. And we talked about embracing AI and how that technology can help increase your productivity. I'm looking forward to trying that trick she talked about with dictating the notes and then dropping that into Chat GPT. And, again, just going back into it, that entrepreneur, it's created with ups and downs and a lot of challenges and a lot of rewards. And so that if you're looking for any leadership or personal growth training for you, your team, or an event, hit me up. I would love to be able to help you on your journey and to inspire you. All of my contact information is listed below. And remember, you don't need to be great to get started, but you have to get started to be great. So keep leading, keep growing, and keep innovating. Until next time, stay inspired and connected, and I'll see you on the next episode of the Clark Connection Podcast.
Thanks for listening to the Clark Connection Podcast, where my goal is to add value to you. Make sure you like and follow the show. You can also connect with me via my website, coachaclark.com, or on all socials at coach_A_Clark. The links are in the description. Huge thanks to my sponsors, Wayne with 7K Metal Associates, Bobbie at A Comfy Quest LLC, and Andrew at Automate Integrate Professional Services. We look forward to bringing you more great content. See you next week.